Hi, I'm James McGuire, and on today's webcast, we're discussing some of the challenging data issues that face companies as they work to get the most from artificial intelligence. In particular, we're talking about inferencing. We'll explain what that is and how to set up the right data strategy to optimize for it. To discuss that, I'm joined by a major industry thought leader. With me is Krishna Subramanian, president and co-founder of Komprise. Krishna, good to have you with us as always.
Likewise, James.
So, there's been so much. I mean, it's been a fast 2 years since ChatGPT came on the scene. I guess it was actually November 2022. So we're right about at the 2-year mark. So much evolution, so many companies scrambling to make the most of it with some success or limited success in some cases. What do you see now in terms of businesses and how they're focusing on in terms of their AI strategy?
Yeah, as you said, AI has caught everyone's imagination, especially generative AI, because we can see how powerful it can be. A lot of companies have invested in training their own models. That's where we are seeing a lot of innovation right now. That's why for companies like NVIDIA are doing really well. And as you have these models stabilizing, what we're going to start seeing is enterprises starting to figure out how to use those models with their own corporate data. And that's what we mean by inferencing, using a pre-trained model, augmenting it with RAG and then using it.
Let me make sure I understand the term. So it's using a pre-trained model, and that means the company has put its own proprietary data into the model. It's not like an off-the-shelf model, so to speak. And correct me if I'm wrong on that. And then exactly what are they doing with it to call it inferencing?
Yeah, I'll give you some examples. Maybe that'll make it easy to understand. So let's say you have a model that knows how to recognize images. So it knows if James is in an image, or if it knows if the eWEEK logo is in an image. And now you want to give it all of eWEEK's images to find all the images that have James doing a podcast with eWEEK's logo in it. So that would be an example where the model was first trained to recognize images using a different data set, but now you're using the pre-trained model with your own corporate data for it to add value to what you have. So when you use it that way, that's what's called inferencing and use. That's one example. Another example is maybe you have a chatbot and it knows how to answer questions about your company's health benefits plans. And now, Europe adds some new benefits to their health plan, but the model doesn't know that because when it was trained, that document didn't exist. So how do you feed it updated information? So that would be like using something like RAG. How do you augment your prompt and say, answer benefits questions, but use this data to add to what you already know? So those are the two use cases, two common use cases in inferencing. And that inferencing is 9 times plus bigger than the training market. So it's a massive market.
The inferencing model is far bigger than the training market, which itself seems rather large.
Yeah, I mean, you can think about it in another way. How many of us generate electricity? I guess before solar, very few of us did. Mm-hmm. But how many of us use electricity? Almost everybody, right? And that's the same kind of ratio between AI model training and model inferencing and use.
Uh-huh. And in the middle of that, you use the term RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. Tell me a little about that, if you would. That might help.
Sure. So RAG is just a technique in inferencing. So basically, a model is trained on some data. And when you ask it a prompt, like when you say, answer this question, you ask it a question, you say, answer this question using this additional data along with what you're trained on. So that's the augmentation part. So it's just a technique for augmenting a model. Some people also call it prompt grounding. So when you have the prompt, you ground it with some data. These are just techniques to add more data or add more context after a model has been trained. So you don't need to retrain the model. You're just saying, in addition to what you already know, use this additional context.
All right, so we see that inferencing is a key focus. I mean, more companies want to be doing more of it, but What's the challenging with inferencing? Why is it hard in a data sense?
Yeah, so inferencing, people are trying to figure out how to use it. How companies can use AI with their corporate data, and there are two big challenges when you try to use AI with a company's own data. The first challenge is who is doing the work. If you really want AI to be widespread in its use, anybody in the company should be able to use it. So any user could be giving corporate data to AI and asking it to do something with it. So now it's not just data scientists or AI specialists. It's anybody in the company. So the chance of data leakage or improperly sharing sensitive data, all of that just increases exponentially because anybody is using it, right? That's the first problem. Data governance and data leakage is a big problem. The second problem is, how do you help people find and feed the right data to AI? And how do you do it where IT can still control what's being shared? Because, you don't want the shadow AI movement where willy-nilly everybody's just sharing something
Right.
and then it's kind of out of control, right? So that's that, systematic management of the AI data workflow with IT oversight. People are still trying to figure out how to make that happen.
It seems like it's a real problem issue because I'm sure that executives across the country, if not the world, are thinking, oh gosh, we can't be feeding all our proprietary data into this AI model. And we need to have only very few people feeding it in. And even they are suspect. And, once we let go of our data, who knows what's going to happen with it? So this feels to me like it's a very new area and an area that seems very perilous to many executives.
Yes, I think, if you look at a lot of the surveys around AI, even our own survey, we do an annual survey, James, just to find out the top issues for unstructured data. For the last 2 years, the feedback we got is we're exploring AI, but really not using it. Because I think most companies are sort of they're kind of paralyzed by it. They don't know how to use it with their data. I would agree with you.
So it's kind of an irony in that they're storing all this data and there's so much value to be made from the data, to be gained from the data, but they're not really sure how to get the value from it.
Yeah, and I think you can start, and the good news is there is some places where you can start. So the first step is just actually indexing the data. If you have all your corporate data and you have some way of analyzing and indexing it across all your different data stores, then that's a start because you at least know what data you have. And then you can create systematic data workflows around it. And you can, and you do need some automation, you need some tooling to do that, so that any user could use AI, but the workflows are automated by IT. So there are solutions, data management solutions that are starting to address this problem.
And who would do that particular work that you just mentioned? Is that only the IT department or the data professionals? Who's actually doing the indexing of the data?
Yeah, it's a great question, James. So we have customers who are actually using Komprise right now for some of these AI workflows. And I can tell you that it's usually a collaboration between the business users and IT. So, what they do is they have business users generating queries using like in our product, for as an example, our product indexes all the data. And then we provide ways where a scientist could go in, or a researcher could go in, or a student could go in, and they could search and say, I want this data. This is the data that's useful to me, and they could create queries like that. But moving that data to AI, that policy, IT has to approve it, and once they approve it, when we move the data, we also keep an audit trail of what got moved, because that's the other thing. For data governance, you do need to know what was shared with which AI process, when, by whom. You want all that information.
Definitely. Well, so that's one idea to help. Anything else you'd say in terms of recommending best practices, getting companies to be successful in terms of their data?
Yeah, I think, also good policies are important because I think, if users don't know even what they're supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do with AI, then, you're kind of letting everybody just decide what the policy should be. That's not good. So having good corporate policies, and then having good education for people on what the policies are, and then following it with some systematic workflow management, I think that's like a good three-pronged approach. And this area is evolving rapidly. So the other thing I would say is, start in small, and then, you're going to learn continuously.
But of course, starting small means your data has only so much value. I mean, the more data you can put into that model, the more valuable it becomes. You're saying, well, true, but we'll still need to keep a narrow diet, a data diet for the model.
Well, when I said start small, I meant start with specific use cases. Not so much that you put the data on a diet, but maybe you pick a use case first. Like if tagging images is your use case, start there. That could be a good use case. Maybe identifying sensitive data is your use case. So do that. Maybe transcribing, chat sessions is your use case. My suggestion is pick one or two use cases where you want to apply AI. You can apply it on all your data, but you systematically build that workflow. You learn from what's working, what's not working. Then you can extrapolate to other use cases.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Anything else in terms of what companies should know to create a best practices strategy for their data?
I think, the biggest thing I would say is, always, analytics is like the first step to any of these journeys, because it's hard to manage something you don't know. And the problem with unstructured data is you don't know how much unstructured data you really have. You're in the dark. So always start with the knowledge, know first. And you'll see that it's not as difficult as it seems.
Well, I like the optimism of that. I think companies might say, yes, but it is difficult. But I think if you start small and make progress, it's a good strategy. Looking to the future, because I think companies really want to know where we're going and how can we get ready for that now. What do you think in terms of the future of inferencing, if inferencing as it pertains to AI and best data practices? What do you see like in the next 1 to 2 years?
I think a fascinating area, James, where I think we'll see more work is a human AI interaction. So I think there's right now people are thinking, oh, AI is going to take this over, and then people will get cut out. I actually think reality is not going to be that. It's going to be that there are going to be some AI helpers, just like software helps us. AI is going to be the next step. It's going to assist a human, and there's going to be human oversight over everything the AI does. And so that interaction, how do you make it easier? And how do you enable iteration over it? So maybe there's an AI assistant for a human, then the human has validated it. And after it's been validated, something else happens. So I think that kind of, human-enabled AI workflows, I think that's what's exciting. That's where I think there's a lot of opportunity in the enterprise.
Well, I mean, I think you're getting into this area. I mean, I hear so much of these days is agentic AI. So the AI agent doesn't just give an answer like ChatGPT might. It's actually the agent does a series of tasks and it really does become a digital worker.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that, I mean, I guess, is something you deal with in your data best practices, or that's not, you don't necessarily get into agentic AI at this point?
No, we can, I mean, even agents require data for their work, and that's where our intersection would be.
Yeah.
We focus kind of on that bridge of data to AI.
And I want to make sure I give you a chance to talk about how Komprise can help customers with this journey. If you kind of put that in a nutshell, is like how is Komprise helping customers?
Yeah, so Komprise, analyzes, moves, indexes, and manages unstructured data, meaning any data that's not in a database. And so, where we can help is, again, if you want to know how much unstructured data you have, or you're wondering how you can build data workflows for it, those are all the things that Komprise does.
Great. There's definitely a market for that. Krishna, thank you so much for sharing your expertise today. And please do come back and talk with us again sometime.
Thank you, James. It's a pleasure as always.